Welcome to Bassmaster Radio, presented by Phoenix Boats, the show for fishermen by fishermen. Today's show is brought to you by Enigma Fishing. Cast, catch, repeat. Visit Anderson, South Carolina, home of beautiful Lake Hartwell. Phoenix Boats, experience the difference. And by the Bass Anglers Sportsman Society. Now, here's lifetime BASS member, Thom Abraham.
Now, welcome back, Phoenix Boats Bassmaster Radio. Now time for the Ravello Winner's Circle, and this is a dude that we had on not too long ago. He was the Angler of the Year in the Opens last year. He won at Kissimmee last year to start the season, and all he does in his very first Elite Series event is go to the St. Johns River, get better and better each day, and pull out the win. He, of course, is Bryan New, and he joins us now. Bryan, welcome to the show again. How are you?
I'm doing great. Very busy, but I'm doing great.
Now, you are busy. Of course, you guys get ready to turn around and start practice up in Knoxville. But, you know, I got to ask you, are you looking for property in Florida yet? Because you're like an ATM machine down there. You fished a total of 9 tournaments with bass. You've made over $180,000. And a winner at Kissimmee, a winner at Lake George and the St. Johns River. You know, might be time to think about a little piece of property down that way.
I tell you what, Florida is it's special to me, man. I've had a lot of success in Florida. You know, really, it's not that far. It's only about, I think, St. John's was roughly 6.5 hours from my house. Mm-hmm. Only the second time I've ever been to the St. John's. I was there last year for another event, and actually the week after the Elites were there last year, but, you know, I don't go there, but, you know, once or twice a year, and it's been good to me.
12 pounds day one and the shortened day, 20 pounds on day 2, 21 pounds day 3. The mother load on the final day to just race past everybody, 26 pounds, 4 ounces. And you strike me as a guy that you're not intimidated by anybody. The Opens field was loaded last year, and you were the Angler of the Year. But on that final day, I mean, you're out there. There's Mark Menendez. There's Seth Feider. There's, you know, Patrick Walters is a young stud coming along with a win already. Greg Hackney. I mean, you know, did you think at all about the field of guys? Hank Cherry, the defending Bassmaster Classic champion. Did you think at all about the group of guys that you were in that top 10 with?
You know, not really. There's a ton of you know, Elite Series guys and other series professionals around here locally that I've fished against and fished with, you know, my entire life and around Carolinas. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's really just you against the fish. I mean, if you're going to win a tournament, you're going to win it no matter who you're fishing against. If you're, say, you know, I go out and catch 25 pounds or 26 pounds, I guess, the final day at St. Johns River. It doesn't matter who I'm fishing against. So, I mean, yeah, it is. It does. I guess it's more satisfying when you beat those guys.
Yeah.
But as far as while I'm out there on the water, while I'm sitting there before blast off, you know, it's just another day. I mean, it's a very special day. You know, you are fishing against the best anglers in the world, so that's cool in itself. But as far as intimidation, zero.
How do and look, you're a cocky, confident. No, I don't want to say cocky. You're a confident guy. You said going in that your goal this year was to win the Bassmaster Classic and Angler of the Year. Okay, no big deal. But I don't understand what people would expect. What should you say? I want to come in 29th? I mean, obviously that's what you want to do, right? I mean, you're out there to win tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you know, I'm as far from cocky as it would come. I mean, maybe the confidence that I do have now that I've gained over the last few years, maybe it would come off as cocky to some people, but I promise you that is not the vibe that I want to give. I just, you know, it's, you know, I've been successful and, but don't get me wrong, like, I'm worried about Knoxville.
Yeah.
I was worried about the St. Johns River. Like, but, you know, when I get to a tournament and I'm worried about it, I get out there practiced, really hard for 3 days, daylight to dark. And, typically, hopefully, I've got a feel what's going on. And, by that point, hopefully, typically I'm somewhat comfortable and have an idea of what I need to do. And I just got to make it happen at that point.
Bryan New with us, coming off his win at the St. Johns River. How did you, such a massive amount of water, like you say, you don't have a huge amount of history there at the St. Johns. You go down there once a year. But how did you eliminate so much of the water and say, okay, this spot here, south end of Lake George, in the canals here, a very specific area, lily pads and so on, which was like classic bass habitat. How did you narrow down to that spot and eliminate so much other water, which all looks so good?
Well, the way that I practice, like I literally looked at everything that we could possibly fish almost, other than crescent, and what's the other one that you have to lock into?
Rodman Reservoir. Yeah, Rodman.
Rodman, yeah.
Reservoir. Yeah.
I never went to those two lakes, and I looked at everything else. I mean, in 3 days of practice, and actually the first day of the tournament, I was still practicing somewhat, and I understand how the spawn works in Florida. It's different than other places in the country. I mean, somewhat, and really, I don't even know that I could explain what I mean by that.
Yeah,
it's just I understand it in my head, and I found a hint of that the last day of practice, and then the first day of the tournament, it wasn't very good, but at the very end of the day, I started getting a little bit better of a hint of it, and it was just too late for that day once I figured that out. And then the second day was when I really, really got dialed in, and those fish, they were just constantly flooding into that area that I was fishing.
And talk about, too, you said that you wanted to fish the isolated clumps of lily pads as opposed to the thick lily pad fields. How do you make that decision, and why do you think that they were, at least the fish that were more catchable maybe, why they were more relating to those isolated pads as opposed to just a thick lily pad field?
Well, I think there were several things going on there. I mean, one, it's just an easier target. I think every pad down, if there's 10 million pads down there, that I would say 7 million of them had fish on them. It was just a isolated pad is easier to target. It is easier to land the fish. It's easier to actually fish. And on top of that, I think it is actually better because whenever you have just a great big mass bunch of pads that are really tight together, it blocks out a lot of sunlight.
Right.
And a fish needs a lot of sunlight to spawn. And I mean, that's what these fish doing. I mean, at 100%, the fish that I was catching were spawning. I just was not visually looking at the beds. So then again, that's why I say that the isolated or the more scattered out pads, not so thick, that's why I targeted those.
All right, finally, in our last couple of minutes, you got to tell us the story of how you ended up with Pulse Fish Lures as your title sponsor halfway through wrapping your boat and had to redo the wrap with Pulse Fish Lures. This is a great story. Tell that story.
So it's like 2 days before I leave to go to Florida for the first event. Everything's crazy this year. I had a very small time frame to get things done, to get deals finished up. And I'm at the wrap shop last minute. I'm actually doing a little bit of work on my boat because my wrap was going to be done that day, so I could knock out two birds with one stone. And heck, he's got this side done. I'll take a picture and make a post of it. And, about 30, 45 minutes later, we decided we'd go to lunch. And I get a phone call. It's from my friend Todd Goad, the owner of Pulse Fish Lures. And so while we're at lunch, I'm eating. I'll call him back in a little bit when I get back to the shop. And I get back to the shop, and he calls me again. I said, well, this is probably pretty important. So I answered it, and he said, hey, I see you don't have a title sponsor. I said, you would be right. He said, you need one. I said, you would be right. And he said, I want to be one. I said, talk sweet to me. And, we had a very brief, short and sweet conversation. And it was, now Pulse Fish Lures is my title sponsor. They make really good swim bait heads, some unique stuff. Really great products. I've used them for years. Like I said, Todd's a friend of mine, a personal friend of mine, and I've caught a lot of fish on their products over the years. And I'm very, very humbled and very, very blessed to be representing their products this year. And, also very thankful to have them on board to make this year a lot easier.
And it goes to show how important social media is, because if you don't make the post, you don't get the sponsor. So there you go. It's good stuff.
Absolutely.
Bryan New has been our guest. Congrats on the win, Bryan. I got a feeling we'll be talking again. Who knows? The Rebel Winner Circle, all the winners come in, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes to do this before you head to Knoxville.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and definitely, hopefully, we get to do this again, maybe a few times this year.
Wow, there you go. No, not cocky, but confident. There you go, Bryan New. Thanks, Bryan.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bryan New, how good is that? That is great stuff. All right, we're going to get a break in here. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about